Today we're going to go to Spain and we're going to talk about Tempranillo. Tempranillo is to Spain is what Sangiovese is to Italy. It's the most widely planted grape, and just like Sangiovese in Italy, Tempranillo goes by about a dozen different names. You may hear it called Sensibal, Tinto de Toro, Tinto País, Tinto Fino. At the end of the day, it's all Tempranillo. It's grown all over, but the two areas we're going to talk about today are Ribera del Duero and Rioja. In those areas, it's sometimes bottled on its own as 100%, or it could be blended with other grape varietals, such as Garnacha or Carignan as well. When you're looking at Spanish wines, they have a classification system that's modeled after the AOC in France or the DOC in Italy, and those cover sherry vinegar, they cover cheeses, and they also cover wine. Rioja is one of two DOCAs, DOCAs, which are the highest level of that classification. So let's start off with the Ribera del Duero. It's located in Castilla y León, and it's located along the Duero River, which ultimately becomes the Douro River. When you're looking at a bottle in a wine shop, chances are you're not going to see Tempranillo on the label, or Tinto Fino or Tinto de País, which they refer to the grape here as. You just have to know it's minimum 75% Tempranillo and then other varietals blended in. In this case, this one's 100%. But when you're looking at all the Spanish wines, you'll see, just like in Italy, how they have the little label. This signifies that is a wine from a DO in Spain, or in this case, the DOCA. So when it comes to Tempranillo, one of the hallmarks of it is that it's aged in American oak, specifically when it's in Rioja. When you venture outside of Rioja, you may find it in French oak or in American oak. But when we start talking about Rioja here, that's going to be one of the textbook characteristics of these wines. There's really three levels. There's the Crianza, which is an example of that right here. Then we also have a Reserva, and then we have the Gran Reserva. So with the Crianza wines, those are the youngest upon release. It's aged for a minimum of 2 years. When you get to the Reserva, this is aged for a minimum of 3 years, and then the Gran Reserva aged for a minimum of 5 years. Now those are minimums. Oftentimes winemakers will age it even longer, which I think is why Tempranillo in Rioja specifically can be one of the great values out there, that you get a bottle that has some age on it, that's drinking well in its current release. For example, the 2007, that's the current release of the Reserva. This is the 2010 Gran Reserva, that is the current release as well. The region of Rioja is named after the Oja River, a tributary of the Ebro. And in there, they have three different regions. They have Rioja Alta, Rioja Baja, and then Rioja Alavesa. Some wineries blend from all three. Others will do single vineyard bottlings, in the example of Viña Tondonia. If it's a single vineyard in Rioja, it has to be at least 35-year-old vines and making wine for the past 10 years from that to be labeled as a single vineyard. When it comes to ageability, Rioja is one of those wines that can really age for quite some time. And I've had examples back into the 30s, the 40s, and for the most part, they're pretty bulletproof and pretty durable when it comes into it. And it almost takes on a Burgundian-like style that's very delicate and soft as the wine ages. So enough talking, let's taste. So we're gonna be tasting the Reserva from Lopez de Heredia. This is the Viña Tondonia. This is 75% Tempranillo, and then the remainder is mostly Grenache, which is blended in there. And that's quite common as we look at the wines of Rioja. Color-wise, just taking a look at it, it's gonna take on a little bit of that sort of garnet hue around the edge, a little bit of orangeness to it. And keep in mind, this bottle is 13 years old, and that's the current release of it. So with that oxidation, also you're gonna lose some of the color here as well. On the nose, it's really a mixture of fresh and sort of starting to dried fruit, but definitely on the red and the black characteristics. So there's dark cherries, there's some brambly blackberries and raspberries, almost like on a jamminess, but it's not coming across as cloying. It's very nice, nicely integrated. There's also a really dominant spice characteristic to it. So we're getting the clove, the cinnamon, vanilla, indicating that there's oak on this wine, but what really sets us apart are the coconut and the dill, and just really the oak is turned up to 11 on this wine with it. And that's because it's been aged in the American oak barrels, and the smaller ones, just like you'd find the French barriques, but made with American oak. On the earthiness characteristics, this is a little bit of that scorched earth. I'm also getting some of those notes of aged leather, worn down, almost like a sandalwood characteristic. Also, some dried red flowers and violets as well. On the palate, wine's maybe medium plus in terms of the tannins. Acids moderate, alcohols that medium plus coming through. And the flavors have really evolved differently on the palate and express themselves in a new way where they tend to be more dried fruits. So this is almost like more of the tart red fruits, the cranberries, raspberries, and cherries, some cherry pits, but they're more like that fruit leather characteristic. The earth is like a scorched clay, getting some dried leaves. And then the oak is much more present here on the palate as well, coming through in that dill and the vanilla for the oak barrels, the American oak, which is really unique. As we start to taste this, I'm starting to get hungry. I'm craving, whether it's a grilled pork chop, whether it's a grilled steak, chicken, something off the grill. It almost has like a bloody, irony characteristic to it that makes me crave the red meat. Chorizo would also be delicious with this. So I encourage you to try some and play around with it. They tend to be great values and fun wines to share with people that may not have had a chance to try older wines. So that's what this one tastes like, but go grab a bottle and see for yourself. Cheers.